Humans denied their enemy control by destroying their own civilization.
What's up YouTube, DMLX here, and today we're talking about the choice in Gears 5. Specifically, the moment in the campaign where the player must decide between Del and JD, the choice of who lives and dies by the hands or tentacles of Queen Reyna. Arguably one of the most shocking scenes to happen in the Gears franchise, being that this is the first time that us, the players, got to decide the fate of the protagonists in-game. Normally, decision making in Gears games are dwindled down to deciding which group of characters takes a certain path or objective. For example, in the beginning of Gears 1, you have the option of getting straight into the action or head off to another area to work out the basic controls. But the Coalition, the developers of Gears 5, decided to change things up by throwing a curveball which leads to the end of the newly established trio in the series. Personally, I have a few issues with this moment being in the game, mainly based off the execution rather than from a narrative point of view. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, what I find funny about this moment being in the game is that this is where the Coalition decides to throw all of Gears' canon out the window. Or trash can. Meaning the connective tissue between the games, novels, and comics related to the Gears of War series are now meaningless to hardcore fans, seeing that the Gears narrative structure can now be altered in the games moving forward. For example, it would be like having 343, the developers of Halo, giving the players the option to customize what Master Chief's face looks like in Halo Infinite, when in actuality there's already material out there that canonizes Chief's appearance. But like I said, breaking canon within the Gears franchise is mainly going to be an issue I can see being stirred up by the hardcore fanbase, and not necessarily for those that only play the games, like myself. Although as a fan who mainly plays the games and doesn't dabble too much into the comics or novelizations of Gears of War, I still found the moment in having Queen Reyna make Kate choose between Del and JD a bit jarring and quite forced, to be honest. It felt like the Coalition was developing the game and they couldn't decide amongst themselves who to kill off, and they just said, "Oh f it, let's just have the player decide so that way we can take the direction of Gears 6 in any way we want." Because telling a singular narrative is so last gen. And if you must know, during my first playthrough of Gears 5, I chose to kill off Del. Not because I didn't like the character, I actually enjoyed the chemistry between Kate and Del throughout the campaign. The reason I chose to kill off Del was because I knew it would have more emotional weight compared to killing off JD, who had significantly less screen time in this game compared to Gears 4. However, I can also see why other players would choose to kill off JD for that same reason. With his presence lacking throughout the story and coming off quite shady towards his friends, I could see why many players probably didn't care for JD's well-being. But on the other hand, Marcus's reaction to his son's death was a bit underwhelming to say the least. Granted, Marcus is probably numb to the pain of losing friends and loved ones since he's been living in a constant state of war throughout his adult life. But I mean, come on Marcus, this is your only son, could you at least shed one tear for your boy? Another reason why I prefer Del's death over JD's is because of the way Marcus comforts JD after losing his best friend. The understanding of what it's like to lose a brother in arms, like when Marcus lost Dom in Gears 3, or even Ty in Gears 2. Ty! No! Gotta give the Gears series credit where credit is due. These games probably have some of the best dramatic death scenes in all of gaming. But hold up Gears 5, you're not off the hook just yet. Personally, I found the execution of choosing between Del and JD not very believable, because there is clearly a third potential option that Kate could have chosen that would have potentially saved both Del and JD's lives. Let's have my boy Thanos the Mad Titan explain what Kate should have done during this dire situation.
You should have gone for the head.
Honestly, the third option should have been Kate attempting to take out Queen Reyna General Shepard style, or some other form of sacrifice to ensure the safety of her comrades. Because the scenario that was presented when it came down to saving Del or JD didn't feel like Kate could only save one or the other. Now maybe if Del and JD were in a Lizzie Carmine situation where both characters were on opposite sides of the battlefield with no possible way of Kate saving them both, then I would have been more accepting of this moment being in the game. So Coalition, if you're watching this video, and I know you're not, which is fine, but I implore you.
You implore me?
Yes, I implore you to make a third option to save both Del and JD as DLC or as a potential campaign update. And if that means having to sacrifice Kate as the new Queen of the Swarm, then so be it. So I'm just thinking in the comments down below about the choice in Gears 5. Do you like how the Coalition handled this moment in the game, or do you think this will end up being a big mistake for the future of Gears 6? If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, it really helps me out. Subscribe for more content from me on Gears of War and other games in general. I'm DMLX. I'll see you in the future.